Okay, so we're in the middle of Lent, and I'm wondering how everybody's doing. Have you held to your Lenten fast? What if you've messed up? Let's talk about that. I'm thinking that you probably clicked on this video because, let's be real, you didn't live up to what you wanted to live up to. Whatever you were supposed to fast from, you have messed up. You've fallen, and now you're kind of freaking out because what does all this mean if we fail in Lent? Does it mean that we should just stop and quit, or does it mean that we're going to be in trouble? What do we do? And I want to talk about that for a couple minutes. So let's just assume that you're a human being and you've messed up, and for whatever reason, okay? Number one is this. I'm going to give you 6 things to think about if you've messed up already in your Lent. The first one is this: don't panic. Don't panic. Because when you panic, then all of a sudden, all kinds of irrational thoughts can come into your brain. So if you realize, oh, I made a mistake, I messed up, I did this, I should have done that, whatever it might be, if you respond to that by panicking, then you're probably going to make more and more mistakes or more and more variations from what you've wanted to do during Lent. So number one, just chill out, just relax, don't panic. Okay, number 2 is this: go to confession if you need to. Now, why do I say if you need to? Because did you automatically commit some heinous sin if you have failed in your Lenten practice or your Lenten fast? Maybe, but maybe not. You see, I had a priest tell me recently with regard to our Lenten fast, the things that we choose. I'm not talking about the things that the church tells us to do, like Ash Wednesday and Good Friday and not eating meat on Fridays, okay? I'm talking about the things where we've said, I'm not gonna eat chocolate, I'm not gonna watch TV or whatever. And we've messed up. Did we commit a sin? Well, maybe. It kind of depends on what happened. Okay, remember, those are things that we've chosen to do for ourselves. So my priest friend told me, look, that's between you and God. You've made that choice. God didn't tell you you had to not eat chocolate or not eat pizza or not go to Taco Bell or whatever it is. That's what you decided to do. So if going to confession is something that you're doing because you think that you've mortally sinned, you have to take a step back and go, well, okay, was this a sin or was this just a mistake that I made? It's never a bad idea to go to confession, and I think that you should, especially if you're really worked up about it. But don't feel like you can't receive communion necessarily if you haven't been to confession and you made a mistake and you messed up your Lenten fast. Because the thing that you have to recognize is, number 3, you got to figure out what went wrong. Why did you not live up to your fast? Was it something that you did unintentionally? For example, maybe you said, I'm not gonna watch TV, and you came home and just without even thinking about it, you plopped down and you started watching TV, and then someone said to you, hey, I thought you were giving that up, and you realized, oh, that's right, I forgot. Or maybe you were getting your car fixed and the television was on and you kind of were watching it for a while up in the waiting room. Is that something that you intended to do, or is it something that just kind of happened? There's a difference there when it comes to these things. Now, if you were like, you know what? I said I was going to give this up for Lent, but I've decided that's stupid and I don't want to do that, and I don't care what God thinks about that. That's a bigger issue, okay? So figure out what went wrong. Were you having a bad day? Was somebody else around you that was causing you to have these temptations? What was the situation, so that you can recognize whether or not this failure was avoidable or unavoidable? And then you can begin to plot a path forward with not falling into that same deal. So try to figure out what happened, what went wrong. Okay, number 4, find some people to help you. Find some accountability. Now, this gets a little bit interesting because we all know that according to Jesus, we're not supposed to be talking about our fasting, right? We're not supposed to be like, hey, I am fasting from this terrible thing and it's awful, what should I do? But there's a difference between what Jesus was talking about when he was talking about not doing your acts of righteousness to be seen by other people, like the Pharisees were doing, where they wanted everybody to know how holy and righteous they were. That's a different thing from sitting down with a few trusted people in your life and saying, look, this is what I'm trying to do for the Lord, and I need you to help me with this. I need some accountability. You see, that's what we're supposed to be doing for each other, friends, as the body of Christ. So don't fall into this trap that, you either have to go one way and let everybody in the whole world know, or swing the other way and feel like you have to keep it a secret from everybody, because you need people around you who know what's going on, friends. You got to understand this. We need accountability. We need people who can help us. Someone who can say, hey, all right, if you're giving up alcohol for Lent, then I'm not going to drink alcohol around you. Or if you're giving up chocolate, then I'm going to get the candy out of the house if you live together with that person. Okay? Help each other. Don't try to do it all by yourself. All right, number 5. Remember, this is huge. Remember to let even your failures drive you to Jesus. Okay? Lent isn't about, did I keep the list? And did I check off the box for all the stuff I was supposed to do? And if you did, you go, whoa, I had a great Lent. And if you didn't, you go, yep, epic failure, Lent was a disaster. That's not the point. The point of Lent is a journey with Jesus to help you become more holy. And yes, there's elements of purification and penance and preparation. All of those things are there. But at the end of the day, that is accomplished not because we kept the rules. It's accomplished because we grew closer to Jesus. And guess what? When you fail and you know it, you have a greater level of brokenness and a need for God's mercy than if you keep everything perfectly. Now, I'm not saying, well, then let's just go sin, right? Remember what St. Paul said, should we sin that grace abound? No, of course not. But the point is this, recognize that this is a long game. This isn't about that one particular mess up. This is about whether through the course of your Lenten practice, you drew closer to Christ. And sometimes, friends, when we mess up, that gives us a greater awareness of our own need for mercy and for humility. So let your failure drive you even more closely to Jesus than you were before. I like to think about this when I look at 2 epic failures in the Bible. Among the apostles of Jesus, we have Peter, who of course betrayed Christ, and we have Judas, who also betrayed Christ. You say, wait a minute, did Peter betray Christ? Well, you better believe it. When he denied even knowing him. Some people could argue that what Peter did was as bad, if not worse, than what Judas did, because the Lord even gives Peter a heads up. And Peter was like, I would never do that. You know, in his, you could call it pride, I guess. I will go with you to the end. I would never betray you. And Jesus is like, you better think twice. And what happens? Peter denies even knowing Jesus. Whereas Judas doesn't deny knowing him, but he just sells him out. So both of these men had this epic failure. But let's look at what happened as a response to this. Judas realizes what he's done is wrong. He takes the 30 pieces of silver that he's given to sell out Jesus. He runs back to the religious leaders, throws the silver back at them, and he says, I have betrayed innocent blood. He didn't go, sweet, I've got 30 pieces of silver. Now I can go out and party. No, he failed and he knows it. But what does he do, friends? He tries to fix it himself. So he tries to undo the damage done by his sin on his own. And of course, that fails miserably. And many of you guys know that just flat out doesn't work in life. And when it doesn't work in his sorrow, in his self-obsession, because I believe ultimately that's what it was, he kills himself. What does Peter do on the other hand? When he hears the rooster crow and he remembers the words of Christ, he weeps bitterly. Now, we don't know exactly what he did after that, but we do know this. By the time Jesus has risen from the dead, where is Peter? He's back with the disciples because he's there with John running into the tomb, right? He's the first one to run into the tomb. See, here's the difference between Peter and Judas when it came to their failure. One tried to fix it himself. The other one ran back to the church, back ultimately to Jesus. That's the point of all of this, my friends. When you recognize that you failed, run back to Jesus. Use your failure as an opportunity even to grow in your holiness. And then number 6, lastly, get back on track. Friends, when you've fallen, don't take extra time to dwell on it and feel like, well, I guess I might as well just try again next year. No. Right here, right now, at the moment that you recognized your failure, just get up, ask for the Lord's mercy, ask for forgiveness, ask for grace, and get right back in there. You know, St. Paul says, I have fought the fight, I have kept the faith, I've run the race. He says, I've kept the faith. Now, in any fight, you're gonna take some shots. In any race, there may be moments when you're not leading, okay? What matters at a race isn't who's leading up until the very end. That's the only time when it matters who's ahead. You could be the last guy in the race, but you win when you cross the finish line first. Sometimes in our Lenten observances, we get so focused on, I've got to be ahead the whole time. I've got to be invincible in this. And when we fail, we can get so caught up in that, so discouraged that we just throw in the towel and act like it's a lost cause. Friends, get back up when you fail. Get back up. Learn from your lesson. Make provision to do better next time, but get back after it. Friends, there's still a lot of Lent left. And what matters isn't whether you've done it all perfectly in the moment. What matters is, at the end of this experience, have you drawn closer to Jesus Christ? And I believe that even if you've messed up, it's not too late for you to get back after it. So my friends, have an awesome Lent. If you've messed up, get going. If you've been doing well, keep after it too. Because remember, this whole thing is about preparation. It's about penance. It's about relationship with Jesus. And God wants you to have an amazing Lent. Thanks so much for watching this video. God bless.